Right, 5 minutes past 9 this morning. I'm delighted to say Alan Quinlan is with us. Alan, good morning to you. How are you?
Morning, lads. How are you? Good, thanks.
The front page of the Examiner is very concerned about the injury to RG Snyman. It looks like, we don't know obviously yet, but the concerns are that it might be a serious injury.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's the biggest fear for everybody involved in Munster Rugby or support Munster. I think it's just hard to believe it, really, isn't it? He went up for a kick-off, just came down, and there was no real collision in any way. I watched it back a good few times, and unfortunately, something is wrong with his knee, RG Snyman's knee, and it's the same leg, and it's just hard to believe it's happening again. You know, he's had a dreadful run of luck, and it's a massive blow to them, a huge blow. Given he got injured in that first game against Leinster, then got burnt in that fire pit incident, and they've kind of slowly coaxed him back into the team in the last couple of weeks, and he's a game changer, you know, and it looks like it's not a good situation for him now, and it's incredibly unlucky for him and for Munster.
And the response in Thomond when he came off the bench last week, Alan, as well, it was kind of more than just the player that he is and what he brings to the proceedings. It was this massive energy boost within the whole stadium, it seemed.
Yeah, but I think it's very understandable, Owen, that people are going to be excited. When RG Snyman and Damien Dialende were announced about 2 years ago, was it, I think, and they were going to come at the start of the following season, I think everybody was excited and really happy about that. You know, these guys had just won a World Cup. Snyman had shown, even though he was more of coming off the bench for South Africa that World Cup and in previous test matches, the devastation, the type of player he is, his ball carrying ability, and what he could bring at this level here, I think he would have been, you know, as I said, made a huge impact with Munster. But I don't know, it's just sometimes, and my own history with Munster, when you think back to Christian Cullen, you sign a player at that level and you think as players, we were really excited at the time Christian Cullen came, and just everything went wrong with his shoulders. Everything that could go wrong went wrong, and we only saw small glimpses of what he could do and what he could bring. And I remember thinking the guy was just so unlucky. And Tyler Blandell is someone who probably comes to mind as well, that just with his neck and continuously setbacks around there. And you know, I often looked at other guys in my own career when I had some of my own serious injuries and thought, God, why does it have to be me all the time? And sometimes there's just no explanation. And the only thing that's on RG Snyman's side is he's still young, and he wasn't rushed back here either. You know, that's you know, because of what happened with the fire pit incident, he actually got more time to kind of strengthen up and recover and get stronger and fitter and stuff. So sometimes there's no explanation for these things, but you just think, like, there was no contact in that situation yesterday. He just went up, jumped in the air, caught the kickoff, came down on his leg, and he's something went wrong with his knee. So look, who knows when the scan is done today? Hopefully it's not as bad as people fear. And I think, you know, Munster themselves came out and said that it just doesn't look good, does it?
No.
You know, he knew straight away, and if you he didn't move, he was in distress straight away. So I think we can all assume that it is the worst, unfortunately.
Okay, well, it's horrible news for him, and really takes the gloss off what was an excellent performance from.
Yeah, and Ger, if I could just say, you know, for him as a player, you know, some of these players, obviously, sometimes over the years we've maybe questioned one or two foreigners, their motivation, desire gets questioned a lot in France, and thankfully in Ireland we've been very, very lucky in all the provinces with overseas players coming in and the impact they make, and I think they buy into the culture pretty quickly, and they want to try and reward the fans, if you like, and the support they get. And from what I was hearing, RG Snyman was really upset and frustrated last year that he couldn't kind of reward the Munster fans and get out there and play. And you know, the last couple of weeks he was just so excited and delighted. You saw his reaction scoring that try. And for this fella as an individual, it's heartbreaking for the individual himself. You know, he lost his mother there very, very recently in South Africa as well. So it's heartbreaking stuff for him personally.
Well, we wish him all the best in his recovery as well. To move back to the actual playing and the match itself, the performance of Ben Healy was so good that people are now wondering if that debate that we kind of had a little bit a couple of weeks ago is actually a full-blown debate now. Is Healy, okay, not to over-egg a league match at this time of the season, but his performances at the moment are certainly nipping at the heels of Joey Carbery, if not right there beside him.
Yeah, what we saw yesterday was a step up, back to the same venue nearly 12 months ago when we saw that, when he kind of announced himself to everyone really with that winning kick and that performance in Scarlets a year ago. He was very composed yesterday. His passing was good. A couple of great passes for a couple of tries. Looked very assured in the position. And yeah, I think he certainly has increased that debate around challenging Joey Carbery for that 10 jersey. And maybe, I don't know. I still have massive faith in Joey Carbery, what he can do and the talent he has. He just hasn't kind of got back his spark from where he was pre the ankle injury. And I think that will come. I think maybe you could play Joey Carbery full back. Maybe you could just give him a little bit of freedom to say, look, do this natural, unstructured stuff that when the ball is kicked down to you, that is ingrained in you, and it's what's made you so exciting, and take away some of that big decision making from him. I don't know if that will happen, but look, I still think Joey Carbery is a super player, and he will come back. But having that little bit of depth there, and the option of having Ben Healy on the field, you can imagine a tight European game away from home. You're a score 2 points down, and having him on the field anywhere from the halfway, even outside the halfway line, he's a potential match winner for you with a kick. So, it is early days, and Scarlets were dreadful. Munster were brilliant, and there's no point in getting too carried away. But I was very impressed, and I think he looked comfortable and he looked happy in himself and confident, and that's what you want from young players. But his forwards in front of him were exceptional, and you get good delivery like that.
Does he have to get some game time with Ireland sooner rather than later, just to see? Like, is he? What if
he probably needs to back up some of these performances, and Connacht next? I don't know. Is he going to start again? It depends on selections and all that kind of stuff.
Okay, who would you pick for Connacht?
I don't know. It depends on. I think Joey Carbery has to get games, and I think he's the one that's in control. I think what Ben Healy did yesterday will be banked, and it will take his confidence to another level. But we have to try and get that level of performance out of Joey Carbery. So I think you have to play Joey Carbery. You don't start. The worst thing that can happen now is that you start messing around with and Joey Carbery sitting on the bench, because I think that will have a real negative effect on his confidence. Sometimes it can spark a guy to really be determined to get back on track, but it's not as if Joey Carbery is playing really badly. He's just not shown that spark that we normally associate him with. And let's see what happens against Connacht. But we need to see a performance from Joey Carbery. Then you're in a great place where you two, kind of 1 and 2 are in good mood, playing well, controlling games. But I suspect it'll be a different challenge next week against Connacht, given what happened them against the Bulls, and some similarities last year when they shipped 50 points by Leinster the Rainbow Cup. They came to Munster the following week, and they beat Munster. So that's going to be a different story and a lot more challenging. But everything that happened yesterday for Munster, it stuck. They created their own luck. Their intensity and energy was phenomenal. My own son asked me yesterday before the game, will Munster win today? As a 12-year-old does, you have to give a very straight answer, yes or no. He doesn't want this big description. And I said, I'm not sure. I think this is going to be a really difficult one for them, and I think Scarlets might beat them because they have all their Welsh internationals, they have their Lions players back. and Munster have made 11 changes, and I think it's a difficult place to go.
You gave him a long-winded answer anyway, it turns out.
I know, he wanted the yes or no, and I gave him the long-winded answer. Yeah, you're very sharp there, the way you could pick that up straight away. But anyway, basically I said Scarlets will probably win. And we were shocked. I just thought, there's a couple of guys as well. You know, Finian Wycherley for me now, and maybe given what's happened, what potentially could be the case with RG Snyman, I thought he showed a physicality, a maturity, and a real kind of presence about himself. There was a couple of performances there yesterday that's brilliant for those players, because they've kind of stepped up to another level. Look, it's only round 3, but yeah. I think it's not getting too carried away, but there was some great performances. Neil Cronin, you know, brilliant as well at scrum half. So you could name all the players. Thomas Ahern, his potential, and I've spoken about that before. But right across the board, I think they were brilliant. And what it actually is good for is a feel-good factor throughout the camp, because everybody else expected them to lose that game yesterday.
Ahern gets loads more game time this year now as a result of what happens with Snyman, but actually, you know, in his position, coming off the bench is probably exactly where he needs to be, as opposed to starting a load of games. So it's a double-edged sword. Those extra minutes are great for him and for his experience, but actually sometimes you don't want to risk the physical issue or any of the stuff that comes from being 21, 22. Like, if you look back on James Ryan, played really early in his career and then had injury problems for 2 years afterwards. That's not to say he wouldn't have those injury problems anyway, but got a lot of game time very early, and sometimes in the second row. It's better if you're Finian Wycherley and a little bit older, when you are bursting into the team, you know, you're more fully formed and you're ready for it. Just to go back to we expected an out half controversy, because that's kind of one of the meat and drink of Irish rugby. But actually, at the moment, there's no out half controversy. The number 10 for Ireland is Johnny Sexton, because he's playing pretty well and he's fit and he's got that chip on his shoulder from the Lions. And it's kind of an ideal case scenario for the Ireland coach at the moment, because you've got somebody who's in possession, and if anybody's going to take it off him, they're going to have to play really well, as opposed to just getting it because Sexton's hit the end of his career.
Yeah, he was really good when he came on against Zebra. Again, you've got to put the opposition in perspective. But I think he looks in great shape. And it doesn't surprise me that, you know, I always notice from my own experience as well, when you get a good pre-season under your belt, you get the niggles, the bangs and the knocks sorted out, and you get time to really recover and replenish your body, if you like. It gives you a real boost for pre-season yourself. So I think he looks so strong and fit and sharp. But you know, the debate will go on. If Johnny Sexton plays well in matches, people will say he's going to go on forever. If he has one bad game, people are going to say he's finished. So that's what he's going to have to carry now for the next year. And it depends what happens, obviously, at the end of the season. We shouldn't be retiring a guy because of age. I think it's some people are kind of freakish in the way they look after themselves, and it's down to desire and commitment and all that stuff. So he seems to have plenty of that, and he's spoken about it. He's dealt with a lot of elation and success in over his career, and probably in the last couple of years have been the toughest ones, because you get questioned a lot. Ireland have struggled on occasion. So he's going to encounter that throughout the season, and he's not silly enough to get carried away and think, oh, well, I've got man of the match against Zebra here. I've come off the bench and people are talking about me again. So, but the reality is he still does everything better than the pretenders to the crown, if you like, and the fly halves below him. And he has that maturity, obviously, through experience, but he's a top-class player. So I still think he can have a massive season for Leinster and Ireland, and it was great to see him kind of in full flow at the weekend.
It's almost as if his grip on the 10 jersey for Ireland is stronger now than it was during the Six Nations. But what's encouraging, Alan, is that there are legitimate reasons for hope, whether it's the pandemic layoff, which I'm sure would have done him no harm whatsoever, and having this summer off. It's not like he's come out of nowhere and is putting a run of form together. We kind of know why. It's because he's rested up and he's got time off at a really important era in his career, I guess.
Yeah, he would. I met him once or twice in over the summer, just out and about in the parks and things. And um, you don't want to start asking loads of questions. You just say, "How are you?" And I met him, and I think anyone who knows him would say that he would have been very frustrated and disappointed with the Lions situation. But that rest, it's not alone a physical rest, though, it's a mental rest as well. So he's got to try and enjoy his rugby and not look too far ahead. And I think that's something you hear a lot from athletes in the latter parts of their career. Just it can be boring sometimes, but try and live in the here and now and not get too high or elated or low if disappointments happen. But he's just got to try and do the job to the best of his ability. But he's, as I said, he hasn't lost. You know, and you don't lose your talent the older you get. You lose the speed of thought and the speed in your legs and stuff like that. So if he can keep those things high, he can have a big season for Leinster and Ireland. But I think Andy Farrell and Leo Cullen, they both have to be mindful that, you know, if he didn't play with Ireland, if he didn't play with Leinster, who are the backup players and are they up to speed? Have they got game time? So it's about managing his minutes as well. But it looks like he still is the number one and will be the number one for November and Six Nations.
We're out of time, but we'll talk a bit more about, obviously, Connacht ahead of the Munster game this weekend. They were very disappointed with their performance. Listening to Andy Friend speaking to Joe, he reckons that the players were a bit fatigued. They did a bit too much during the week, so hopefully they'll get that right and we'll see a bit of a cracker next weekend at home. And Alan, good stuff. Thanks a million for joining us.
Cheers, lads. Thanks.
Alan Quinlan gave us his thoughts there on the RG Snyman situation, the 10 situation evolving across the provinces, and a bit more as well. OTB AM brought to you by Gillette. Good mornings start with Gillette. Put your best face forward with their new and improved razors.